From the real tale that inspired the movie to Nolan's insane approach for achieving a super realistic experience, here's everything you need to know about the true story behind Oppenheimer and why Christopher Nolan is stepping away from fiction. Just like any other war movie, it all started with World War II. Except, Oppenheimer isn't any other war movie, because although other filmmakers have been able to get that World War II narration right, no one has quite yet talked about J. Robert Oppenheimer. But you know Nolan, he's prepared to recount Oppenheimer's narrative and explain the mystery surrounding the Manhattan Project. The story follows the disastrous effects of the creation of a nuclear weapon, with good old Cillian Murphy taking on the lead as the theoretical scientist. Julius Robert Oppenheimer went down in history as the father of the atomic era, and although he is also known for his contributions to theoretical physics and quantum mechanics, it was the Manhattan Project that had the biggest impact on the world. But what is the Manhattan Project? Long story short, it's the textbook top secret thing, with Oppenheimer as the project's head, all because Einstein persuaded the United States to start studying nuclear fission in 1939 to further identify its possible military uses. The project was started mainly so America could beat Nazi Germany to a nuclear weapon, and so the development of the Los Alamos laboratory started. Plus, having J. Robert Oppenheimer as the head of the lab kinda played to America's benefit. Why? The guy had already made some huge progress in this nuke development. Fun fact, it was actually Einstein who linked Oppenheimer to the American government, and then regretted it because the guy was a pacifist due to his German nationality. Smartest man ever? Are we sure? Anyway, we will be seeing this regret from Mr. Oppenheimer too when the movie drops. I mean, why wouldn't he? His creation had some serious drawbacks. The man single-handedly avoided world peace. No, really. Remember Hiroshima, Nagasaki? The uranium and plutonium bombs, which were given the codenames Little Boy and Fat Man, turned the tide of the war, basically ending it. But like I said, no to world peace, as the incidents also sparked intense moral and ethical discussions over the use of atomic bombs. And not just that, it also started the stage for the future nuclear weapons race, also called the Cold War. Not to stray off topic, but the moment Oppenheimer realized how big it was, he was troubled by his role in the Manhattan Project, and thus dropped his famous lines.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Anyway, the whole thing was a bit much for him, and Oppenheimer felt a great burden on his conscience. He is said to have confronted President Harry S. Truman about how America had stained his hands with blood. This not only ruined his image, but also ended Oppenheimer's relationship with the American government. His name was dragged through the mud, and he was called a crybaby by the public. The saying, "You either die a hero or live long enough to be a villain," really fits his life. Anyway, the thing is gonna be amazing. And that's just from what Matt Damon has revealed regarding the historical accuracy of the movie. However, Nolan has other ways to be groundbreaking, right down to the writing. Making a narrative for Oppenheimer in the first-person perspective, just to keep it as subjective as possible, is something we have not witnessed in a cinema ever before. Nolan explained that the movie adopts and reveals an intriguing twist based on the color scheme the movie uses. The notion is that everything in the color scenes, which make up the majority of the movie, is told from Oppenheimer's perspective. You're essentially seeing everything through his eyes. Plus, a historical drama with a twist sounds much more interesting to anyone who may find Nolan's films confusing. Plus, when you look at the cast, boy does it blow your mind. You got Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., Rami Malek, God who knows who else, maybe even a cameo from John Krasinski. All thanks to Robert Downey Jr., who posted a few photos on Instagram of his hangout with the other actors from the upcoming film. As the New York City skyline could be seen in the backdrop, the group hangout included the man himself, along with Emily Blunt, Cillian Murphy, Matt Damon, and, shockingly, John. Taking a break from their press tour, Oppenheimer's actors had pizza together while posing happily. Downey mentioned Krasinski and also hinted at a potential appearance for him, asking if it was a photobomb or a hint at a surprise cameo. Although there hasn't been a formal announcement, fans are anticipating Krasinski's appearance on Oppenheimer. The comment, "Jazz hands," was posted by Krasinski. Imagine they do drop a nuke in the movie, and the camera pans toward John with him doing his classic office stare in the camera. Whether he's in it or not, it's really going to be the bomb. The one guy who missed out on the role is unfortunately our new Batman, Robert Pattinson, who interestingly is the reason Nolan even went on this journey. The process, according to the filmmaker, dates back to a conversation he had with Pattinson during Tenet. Just after that project's wrap-up, he was talking to Rob about something he had in mind related to the first nuke, and how it'd be something like Tenet, where the characters fail to stop a chain of nukes, but instead of wiping time altogether, it'd be a less fictional approach. So, Rob, being a book nerd, handed Nolan a book of Oppenheimer's speeches from the 50s. In these speeches, Nolan read about these great minds grappling with the enormous ramifications of the way they transformed life for all of us, forever. All this just to not add Pattinson to the cast? But no, jokes apart, Nolan said that Pattinson was busy and too much in demand to be cast anywhere else. But maybe that was to everyone's benefit, because I don't think anyone could be a better Oppenheimer than Murphy. He was able to express his opinions after seeing the finished product, saying he was knocked out by what he witnessed and talked about how the movie may emotionally devastate the fans. Oh no, is it going to be like Inception? Well, let's hear it from Nolan himself. According to him, Oppenheimer's complex conclusion may be comparable to Inception's. The 2010 thriller by the director memorably finished with a hint of profound uncertainty. The famously ambiguous ending of the movie left the audience wondering if Cobb was still dreaming or not. Plus, Nolan was questioned about whether or not his movies tended to have an anti-nihilistic or hopeful outlook. He replied, saying Inception is exactly that, with a nihilistic perspective right by the ending. It's not so much a difficult to understand one, but you gotta be smart to figure that out. So yeah, there is definitely an intriguing connection between the two movies. You may just have to look a little to find it. An emotional roller coaster, if you may. To top things off, Nolan raised the expectation for Oppenheimer by saying that viewers will be leaving the theaters devastated. Some sources have even called the movie a horror. All in all, it's an intense experience because it's an intense story. It's probably more than that. Not only is it the longest-running Nolan film ever, but in addition to putting a strong emphasis on realism, Nolan said that his movie includes no CGI effects. That could appear to be a significant stretch, right? Especially given what Oppenheimer is trying to do. Nolan previously explained how the Oppenheimer team totally avoided CGI to recreate the Trinity test, which is the first ever test detonation of a nuclear weapon in the desert of New Mexico in 1945. Even just doing that seemed like an enormous achievement, given the logistical preparation needed to match the explosion's brilliance, same as recounted by observers at the moment of the actual event. It shouldn't come as a surprise given the lengths this crew went to, including developing a whole new method of filming the IMAX black and white portions. I mean, I actually wouldn't be surprised if the director had literally used a bomb. Nolan always looks forward to adding authenticity to the screen. This time it was done by mixing gasoline and propane. When fans learned about the explosion, Twitter was highly ecstatic, and many of the fans tweeted in amazement at Nolan's aptitude for building bombs, writing, "Nolan wasn't kidding when he said, no CGI." Many fans also made fun of Barbie, saying that the Barbie theater will actually explode, the moment when the Oppenheimer IMAX atomic bomb will go off, making light of the fact that Barbie is being released on the same day as Oppenheimer. So from Nolan's insane approach to making the movie zero CGI, to the real tale that inspired the movie. This was all for the true story behind Oppenheimer and why Christopher Nolan is stepping away from fiction.